Hello and welcome to another video on quadratic equations, and in this video we're going to be getting a bit more practice applying our famous quadratic formula that we all know and love. So let's just write down a general quadratic equation which will be in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So there are a few different ways we can solve quadratic equations, but what we learnt about in the previous video was applying something called the quadratic formula. Now I think I've built this up enough, so let's write down the quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and then that whole quantity divided by 2a. Now this formula might seem to you at the moment like a bit of gobbledygook, but all we're doing is essentially we're taking our values for a, b and c from our quadratic equation that we want to solve, and we're substituting them into this formula to give us our solutions. So I've got 6 questions here, and I would highly recommend that you pause the video and have a go at solving each one of these quadratic equations, and just be really careful with these last 2, because remember, our quadratic equations, to solve them, they need to be in this form here. Right, so let's go through question 1. Now the first thing to do is to identify our values for a, b and c. So in this equation here, a is going to be the coefficient in front of the x squared term, which is 3. Our value for b is going to be the coefficient in front of the x term, which is negative 10. And c is just the constant, which is 4. So now we've got our values for a, b and c, we can just substitute them into our quadratic formula. So we're going to have x equals negative b, and in this case b is negative 10, so we're going to have negative of negative 10, which is going to be positive 10, but I'll just leave it like this for now so you can see what I'm doing. And then we're going to have plus or minus the square root of b squared, so that's going to be negative 10 squared, subtract, and then 4 times a times c, and I'm going to put all of that in brackets just to help me out. So 4 times a, or a is 3, and then times c, and in this case c is 4. So this is going to be our numerator, and then we're going to divide all of that by 2a, or 2 times 3. Now I could simplify all of this and then evaluate it, but I'm just going to plug it into a calculator just to save a bit of time, and I'm going to plug it in exactly as you see it, and I'm going to include all the brackets as well, just so that I don't make any silly mistakes with the negatives. And I'm going to have 2 solutions because I've got positive and negative here. So one of my solutions is going to be x equals 2.87. Now this solution is if I put plus in my formula, but if I substitute that for a minus sign, then my other solution is going to be x equals 0.46. So well done if you got those 2 solutions. If you didn't quite get them, just have a look to see where you went wrong, and it's probably substituting them into this formula here, so just be really careful with that. So let's have a look at number 2 now. So let's write down our values for a, b and c first. So a is going to be 2, b is going to be negative 1, and then c is going to be our constant, which is negative 9. So now let's plug these into our formula. So we're going to have x equals negative b, so that's negative 1, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so that's going to be negative 1 squared, subtract 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is negative 9. And I'm going to put all of that in brackets. And then I'm going to divide that whole quantity by 2 times a, or 2 times 2. And again, I'm going to put this into the calculator. And my solutions are x equals 2.39 and x equals negative 1.89. So have a look if you've got those 2 correct, and move on to question 3. So question number 3. What are our values for a, b and c? Well, a is going to be 8, b is going to be negative 8, and c is going to be negative 9. So let's write down our formula. We're going to have x equals negative b, So that's going to be negative of negative 8. And then plus or minus the square root of b squared. So we're going to have negative 8 squared. And then minus 4 times a is 8, times c, which is negative 9. Okay, and let's just put that brackets around that. I don't need brackets around this, but it just helps me separate this term from this term. And then we're going to divide all of that by 2 times 8. And again, I'm going to put this in my calculator. And one of my solutions will be x equals 1.67. And my other solution is going to be x equals negative 0.67. Right, we've reached halfway now, and this is strangely satisfying. So have a go at doing question 4. Now for question 4 onwards, I've already set out my quadratic formula here. So all I need to do is when I found my values for a, b and c, I just need to put them inside these brackets and then plug this formula into my calculator. So what are my values for a, b and c? Well, a is going to be 2, b is going to be 16, and c is going to be 1. So we're going to put 16 here, and then it's going to be 16 squared minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is 1, and then divided by 2a, so that's 2 times 2. So my solutions are x equals negative 0.06, and my other solution is x equals negative 7.94. So we've got 2 left, and these 2 here are slightly different to the ones we've done before, so just be really careful of those ones. So what are our values for a, b and c? Well, at the moment our quadratic equation is not in this form. We need to rearrange this equation and put it in this form so that then we can identify our values for a, b and c. So to get this negative 2x on this side, we're going to add 2x to both sides. So we're going to be left with 3x squared plus 2x, and then we're going to get rid of this 10, so we're going to subtract 10 from both sides. So it's going to be minus 10, and that's going to equal 0. And now we've got it in this form here. Now we can identify our values for a, b and c. So a is going to be 3, b is going to be 2, and c is going to be negative 10. And let's pop these into this equation. So we're going to have b here, which is 2. We've got 2 here as well, and then it's 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is negative 10, and then 2 times a, which is 3 in our denominator. And our solutions are x equals 1.52, and our other solution is x equals negative 2.19. Okay, last one. Have a go at this one here. So just like before, we're going to put it into this form here. So I'm going to get rid of that negative 2x from both sides. So I'm going to be left with, on the left hand side, 2x squared. And also I want to get rid of that plus 4x. So I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. So minus 4x. And then I'm going to keep that here. So we've got minus 9, and that equals 0. And now I can identify my letters. So A is going to be 2. B is negative 4, and C is negative 9. And let's plug them in one last time. So we've got negative 4 here. We've got negative 4 here. 4 times A, which is 2, and C, which is negative 9. And then 2 times A, so that's 2 times 2. And we have x equals 3.35. And our second solution is x equals minus 1.35. And we are done. So just to recap, a few things where a few people might slip up on is, first of all, making sure you've got your quadratic equation in this form. If it's not in this form, like these two here, you need to rearrange this so that it is in this form. And once you've got it in this form, then you can identify your values for A, B, and C. And be careful with the negative signs because some of them will be negative. And then it's just a case of plugging these numbers into your quadratic formula. In terms of the formula itself, it can be quite tricky to remember all of this. So what I'd recommend you do is for each question that you answer, if you write out the whole formula, that's just going to benefit you and it's just going to ingrain this formula in your hard-working brains of yours. So that's what I'd recommend. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.